Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Dave Isaacs, and I'm coming to you from Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm here today for jamplay.com to talk about one of the biggest challenges that faces aspiring, beginner, and growing guitar players everywhere, and that challenge is playing bar chords. Now, you're probably familiar with that challenge yourself. It might be something that you're struggling with right now. It might be something that you've struggled with in the past and maybe even gave up on because you felt like you just couldn't handle it. It might be something that you know is coming down the road, but you haven't been ready to tackle yet. Or it might be something that you have a memory of going through that challenge, and maybe it still nags at you. Maybe you still feel like it's holding you back a little bit. I want to talk to you a little bit about why bar chords are so important, and maybe give you some insight into what you can do to make it easier to reach that goal of playing bar chords. Now, the first thing I want to say is that, of course, everything that you learn on the guitar is a goal in itself. When you learn one new chord, you've achieved a goal. But when we look at what this is really about, what are we really chasing when we pick up a guitar? I don't know about you, but for me, the experience of playing music, and specifically being able to take a song, learn it, absorb it, and perform it, is a really, really gratifying thing. And even more so when you get to do it with other people. So you might want to just play songs for yourself. You might want to play and sing. You might want to be able to play while somebody else sings. You might even want to get into a band and make music with other people. And every single one of those things requires enough vocabulary that you can play the chords you need to play the song. Most people start off learning the basic open position chords. So these are chords that are down here on the first 3 frets, and for the most part, we're dealing with 2 or 3 fingers at a time. We learn them with those box diagrams that you might remember from your first guitar teacher, or the internet, or the book that you used, or whatever it was, or even just when somebody showed you, here, put your fingers in these places. And so we remember the shapes. We have the A chord, the C chord, the D chord, the E chord, and the G chord. Those are your big 5 majors. Then we have 3 minor chords, A minor, D minor, and E minor. That's about it for majors and minors when it comes to the open position. Now, if you know anything about music, you know that there are 12 notes in total. We use the letters A through G, and then we have the sharps and flats that go in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, we've had what, 8 chords so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you might be saying, okay, that's 8 out of 12. But no, it's not. Because remember, we've dealt with major and minor chords so far. That's 2 types of chords. And you happen to have both for A major, A minor. You have both for D major, D minor, and you have both for E major, E minor. But that's it. Because when you go to G to play G minor, guess what? You need a bar chord. When you go to C, if you want C minor, oh look, a bar chord. And never mind that we didn't even touch on B or F or any of the sharps or flats. So even if we just say that there's 2 primary types of chords, majors and minors, with 12 different notes, that's 24 chords, and you've only got 8. And of course, there's more types of chords than just majors and minors. There are 7s, there are major 7s and minor 7s. Let's say for our purposes, because most of you are playing rock music or pop music, or maybe blues, or maybe country, or something that might qualify as folk or singer-songwriter. But for the most part, we're talking about a basic vocabulary of popular music. Well, that's mostly using majors and minors and some 7s. So even if we throw the easy 7 chords into the mix, the A7, the D7, the E7, the G7, and the C7, that's 5 more. That's still, okay, you could count B7 in there, so let's say 6 more. Of course, we just added a 3rd type of chord, so now that's a possible 36, and you've only got, what, 13? So the odds that you can get through your time playing and be able to play every chord that you need to play the songs you want to play are pretty slim. Like I said, I'm pretty confident you've run against this problem already. Because let's face it, it's a problem. And the thing is, I said earlier that what we're really chasing, what we really want in learning how to play the guitar is that experience of performing the music, of being in the music. It's one of the greatest feelings there is, really. It's certainly what hooked me on wanting to devote my life to playing the guitar. And if you can't play all the chords that you want to play, or I should say more specifically, if there are chords that are stopping you from playing songs you want to play, then those chords are standing in between you and your ability to really get the full enjoyment of playing the instrument. And I'm not even talking about whether you can play really well. I'm not talking about greatly excelling or being exceptional at the guitar. I'm talking about being functional at the guitar. And I do want to just touch on something real quick when it comes to that. I hear from people all the time, well, I'm not ever going to be a great guitar player. Well, my answer to that usually is, well, number one, you don't really know that. But number two, that really doesn't matter, does it? You don't have to be great to be functional enough to play the songs you want to play and get that feeling, that sensation, that experience that we're all chasing and wanting to play the guitar. So it really doesn't have to do with being great. It just has to do with learning the basics. Let's say that it's like learning the rest of the alphabet. If you only learn 13 out of 26 letters, you're going to have a hard time speaking, right? And then you can't communicate, and then you can't express. And that's what this is really about. I do have to say this, though. If playing bar chords has been such a challenge for you that it feels like an obstacle, you need to understand that it's very possibly not your fault. There's a lot of factors involved in this. I mean, number one, your guitar has to be set up properly. If the strings are too far off the fingerboard, what we call the action, the height of the strings, it makes it very difficult to hold them down, and that makes your life a lot harder. You might be playing a guitar that's physically too big for your body. Maybe the neck is too thick or too wide for your hands to reach if your hands aren't very big. Maybe you have very long fingers and it's awkward to get your hand around the neck, because even though you can reach the fingers, it makes your wrist drop so much because you've got to be able to get on your fingertips to make the strings ring. So those in themselves are just physical challenges that are absolutely no fault of your own until you get a guitar that fits in your hands and is set up so that it's not hard to play. But the other thing that's a really big obstacle for a lot of people is this great big misconception about how bar chords work. Let me show you what I mean. So this is an A major chord on the 5th fret. If you're familiar with the 1st fret F, you can see that I got there by just taking that chord and moving along the neck. So here I am on the 5th fret. Now it's a 6-note chord. Well, out of those 6 notes, I'm already fretting 3 of them with individual fingers. That leaves 3 more strings. Well, the misconception a lot of people have is that you've got to slap that finger against the string and push as hard as you can to hold them down. Well, okay, that worked, but I'm gripping and I'm squeezing and it's hard work and my hand's going to cramp up and I'm going to get tired. You've probably even seen those grip exercisers they sell in music stores. It's basically just a handle with a spring on it, and the idea is that you're going to sit there and do this, and that's going to give you the strength that you need to play bar chords. So you could push those strings down. You've got that Charles Atlas grip, right? Well, that's really barking up the wrong tree. I think those grip exercises are kind of silly because what they don't develop is what you really need to play bar chords, which is coordination of the fingers, control, and finger independence, the ability to hold one finger in one place while you move another to do something else. On top of that, playing the guitar is not about grip and is not about strength in your hands, although obviously coordination and control require a certain amount of strength, but it's not about brute force. It's about balancing. It's about using the hand, the way the hand is made, the anatomy of your hand, to create leverage and pressure that way and balance on the guitar strings. So when I play this chord, number one, I already said I've got 3 fingers down, right? Well, this finger is actually not really gripping, it's leaning. And you might notice that I'm not straight onto the string. I'm not trying to squish them down. There's a little curl in my finger here. And so all that's really happening is that the edge of my finger is resting on these two strings, and the tip of my finger is resting on this string. You see that curl? I don't have to crunch to do that. There's sort of a natural vice grip that comes between the thumb and the side of the finger, and then resting the side of your finger over here on the bass note is not hard. If I lift up the bar, you'll notice I'm not getting those notes to sound. I'm not worrying about it. I don't have to. Now, yes, there are bar chords that are going to require covering more than 3 strings, but for the most part, 3 strings with most of the work being on this side, and again, I've got that natural vice grip. 2 strings. 2 strings. This one's got 4 strings coming from the bar, but still, you've got that leverage of our little vice grip right there. Now, I want to go back to this vocabulary idea, right? That was 4 shapes. 6 notes major, 6 notes minor, 5 notes major, 5 notes minor. That's 4 different shapes. That right there is enough to unlock the entire guitar neck. When you get past this misconception of A, you have to be great, and B, you have to have tremendous strength in the fingers, then this whole process becomes a lot easier, right? Add to that learning 4 shapes allows you to play across the entire guitar neck. And now if you look down at the bottom of this page, you'll see a link to a PDF download. This is a gift for you from this little discussion. And you have diagrams on that PDF of those 4 shapes. That is all you need to play all 24 of those major and minor chords that go with the 12 primary notes. Now, you should also know that all the other chords, the 7s, the major 7s, the minor 7s, all the variations, they grow out of these 4 shapes. They're variations on those 4 shapes. So you learn those first, and the others become a whole lot easier. And not only that, you get a better understanding of music because you get an idea of how you get from this type of chord to that type of chord. You see how notes relate to each other. It's really huge because you become so much more knowledgeable, and there's so much more that you can do just by learning a few pieces of information. 4 chord shapes, and just understanding a little bit about the difference between a major and a minor, or a major and a 7. Also included on this PDF is a diagram of the guitar neck that shows you the notes on the E string, the low E, and the A string, the low A. Well, remember I said there's 4 shapes. 2 of them are 6-note chords, which means the root note, the note it's built on, is on string 6. And 2 of them are 5-note chords, which means the root note is built on string 5. Well, so knowing those notes, plus those 4 shapes, means that not only do you know how to play every chord, you know how to play every chord easily because you've had a geography lesson. You know where things are. So if you need a B flat, you know that it's here. Not only that, you know that it's also here. So bonus, not only did you learn the B flat chord, but you learned 2 different ways to play a B flat chord. That's really good to know because one song might sound better with one way and one song might sound better with another. So those little tidbits of information are really, really huge. Let me go back over that again. 4 shapes, 6-note major, 6-note minor, 5-note major, 5-note minor. It's there on the PDF. And then, of course, the great big misconception that this is about working hard. Yes, it's about working hard in the sense that it's going to take effort for you to train your fingers to do the things they need to be able to do to play bar chords. But the way you're going to train those fingers is not squeeze, 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 squeeze on the little grip exerciser. And it's also going to start with changing that big misconception about the flat fingers squishing down 6 strings, but recognizing that the natural shape of your hand gives you the leverage, the force that you need to hold those strings down, and that with these 4 primary chords, you're never covering more than 4 notes with the bar, and most of the time it's only 3 or 2, and that the high notes are held down by this nice little natural vice grip you get simply by touching the back of the neck with the thumb and bringing the side of the finger to the strings on the treble side. Then curling this around to cover a bass note is not a big deal. So if you never learned that, if no one ever showed you that hand position, that approach, then you weren't given the information that you need. And if your guitar is not set up properly, if your guitar is too hard to play, then you're fighting an uphill battle you don't need to fight. So the short story here is that it really probably isn't your fault if you are struggling. There's a whole lot of reasons why that happens. Okay? So take these facts, 4 shapes, learning where they are, understanding some basic mechanics, and then knowing that you need to put some work in. As long as you're focusing on the right things, you will make that progress, and you will be able to get past that hurdle. You will be able to play all the chords that you need to play. And so you won't be in a position of wanting to learn a song and you can play every chord but one. And so then maybe you come up with some kind of cheat or some other way to get through it, but every time you play it, it doesn't sound right. And it's really not gratifying because you know you're cheating. You feel like you're trying to get away with something and it doesn't sound the way it's supposed to sound. Or someone wants you to play for them. They want to sing a song and you can't play that song because there's 2 chords you can't play. Or you get into a group setting and everybody's playing along and everything's great, but then comes that A flat chord and oh no, I can't reach it. Well, everyone isn't going to stop and wait for you to catch up and get there. So, as I've said before, and you already know this, the inability to play those chords is a barrier. And it's a barrier between you and what you're really seeking out of playing the guitar, which is the enjoyment of that experience of being able to play a song, to be in the moment and feeling what that feels like to make the music. And so I'm here to tell you that with those little pieces of information, you can take a giant step forward, and I think you really can solve this problem. Now you need to stay tuned for this next video because I'm going to be sharing some really valuable information with you. Why it is that you don't need to have great big Popeye arms to play bar chords. What the 4 levels of competency are and why they matter to you, how you learn, and how you feel about how you're learning. And really importantly, how to identify and solve those problems once and for all. This is really important stuff and it's so valuable. So definitely you want to stick around and watch that next video. Now in the meantime, I'd love to know what you're thinking. Please scroll down and leave a comment and tell me something about what it is you want to be able to accomplish when you've learned to master bar chords. Maybe you want to get out and play some gigs. Maybe you want to start a band with your friends. Maybe you want to play at home for your own enjoyment, for your friends and family. Maybe you want to write songs. There's so many doors that are going to open up for you when you really do get past that big hurdle of bar chords. So please do let me know what your goals are. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Dave Isaacs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.